If someone ran by you, grabbed your phone right out of your hand, and took off, would you be fast enough to sprint after them, catch them, and lay the smackdown on their grubby mitts? Well, today you're going to learn how. The speed part, not the smackdown part. Welcome back, recruits, to the sixth Iron Strong session. I'm Coach Cayden, the owner of Iron Strong Training. I've been coaching and training since I got out of high school, and I've had the pleasure of training everybody from youth to pro athletes to everyday individuals. I've learned and taught all about exercise at the university level, and today this is the newest video in a series where I'm sharing as much of my knowledge and experience to you as possible. We're going over different kinds of training goals, the science behind them, and exactly how to train for them. Today, we're covering speed. Specifically, we're going to be going over adaptations to speed training, some factors that contribute to speed, how to train for acceleration, and how to train for max velocity. For a bit of clarity, we're going to be going over linear speed, the ability to accelerate and move at high velocities in a relatively straight path. The specifics of all the adaptations are a little bit outside the scope of this video, but just to summarize a few, neurologically, we look at neural drive, which is the rate and the amplitude of the signals the nervous system sends to the muscle. Increases in neural drive can help with the rate of force production, basically producing maximal force in minimal time. We talked a lot about this in the power video, so go check it out. Metabolically, the enzymes are more active and the rate of energy production is increased. We can see elite sprinters break down phosphocreatine a lot faster, which we talked about in the endurance video a little bit. Go check that out. For the muscles, we see that the muscle fibers themselves transition from type 1 slow twitch muscle fibers that are a little bit more endurance focused towards type 2 fibers, which are fast twitch. They produce a lot of force, but they don't last very long. And of course, all of the fibers that are in between, hybrid fibers, shift towards that fast twitch fiber as well. Beyond those adaptations, which are by no means the only ones, the stretch shortening cycle also plays a huge role in sprinting. We covered the stretch shortening cycle in the power video, but to summarize, it's a phenomenon where muscle tendon complexes are rapidly and forcibly lengthened or stretched, then immediately shortened in a reactive or elastic manner, improving the concentric force production of the movement. Training the stretch shortening cycle improves mechanical efficiency, neuromuscular activation, and muscle tendon stiffness. I can't think of a movement that utilizes the stretch shortening cycle a lot more than a sprint does. After all, a sprint really is just a sequence of rapidly stretching and shortening different muscles at different times. The last factor we'll talk about is muscular strength, the ability to produce high amounts of force. Again, we talked about this in the strength and the power videos, but improving your ability to be strong and produce force increases the range in which you can be powerful. Sprinting involves a high degree of power, so increasing the ability to produce force increases your capacity to get faster. All right, time for the practical piece. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to speed training, but I won't rant about it, and I'll try and condense as much as possible. When training for speed, you need to consider your needs, goals, and experience. A track athlete may not want to load their resisted sprints to the point where they're losing velocity of about 10 to 12%. It's not specific to the sport that they're trying to train for. On the other hand, a field athlete like a football running back, for example, may want to load up their resisted sprints a lot more, about 20 to 30% of their body weight, to simulate running through defenders. And of course, depending on what your running form and technique looks like, how well you're performing, you may want to work on different aspects of your sprint and speed. When ordering your drills, you'll want to start with the most simple drill first, all the way down to the most complex drill, and start with the lowest intensity going all the way down to the highest intensity. So in practice, you'll want to start with the simplest, lowest intensity drill possible all the way down until you get to the most complex high intensity drill last. Usually you want to train speed about 1 to 4 times a week, depending on what your experience and schedule is. This also depends on how you recover from each session. A more experienced, more trained athlete will need to train speed a lot more throughout the week than a novice athlete who is less experienced and less trained. Try to get 24 to 48 hours of rest in between speed training sessions if you're a beginner athlete. If you're more experienced, I would try and get 48 to 72 hours of rest in between. This is usually because a more experienced athlete will be having a higher workload, more sprints, more volume, more intensity, whatever. Generally, it's also good practice to limit your max velocity sessions to 1 or 2 times a week, with about 72 hours in between. Max velocity sprints tend to accumulate a higher toll on the athlete doing them, so we ask for a little bit more time to allow your body to recover. For general guidelines, we're looking for about 4 to 6 drills per session, give or take a drill or two, just depending on what you need to work on and what time you have and what you're able to recover from. Now, at the beginning of a sprint, we are in an acceleration phase. This is where we're trying to build up as much speed as possible. When we are accelerating, we're going to be leaning forward a lot more with our shin pointed outward. Fun fact, the angle of your shin determines where you're directing your force. So if it's pointed outward, you're directing your force down and back against the ground. And our ground contact time will be a lot longer than later in the sprint. Acceleration phases are a lot more about horizontal force production. A good cue to think of is pushing the ground away, down and back, and driving through the crown of your head. As such, our leg mechanics are going to be more akin to a march, bringing the leg up and forwards, then pushing down and back, being more piston-like and punchy in our steps. Although when we're actually going through a sprint, it's going to be a lot faster. Acceleration drills can be anywhere from 5 to 50 yards. A more experienced sprinter tends to have a longer acceleration distance, which is why as you get more trained, you may need to increase those acceleration drill distances a little bit more. Of course, if this doesn't apply to your goals at all, then there may not be a reason for you to increase the distance of each rep. It's recommended that we cap our acceleration distance at about 100 to 300 yards per session. For resisted sprints, because they tend to be a little bit more focused on acceleration, although not always, we want to go for anywhere from 10 to 30 yards per rep with a max distance of 50 to 200 yards per session. For acceleration, resting 1 minute for every 10 yards sprinted during the rep allows for maximum recovery and better repetitions. Time for max velocity, sometimes called top-end speed, where we have finished accelerating and have transitioned into maintaining our speed. Some coaches call this riding the wave. Our mechanics change in max velocity, becoming a lot more vertical. Our torso raises up, our shin raises up, akin to a plane taking off as we transition. With our torso and shin angle now being more vertical, so is most of our force production. Our leg mechanics become a lot more cyclical, like pedaling on a bike. A good cue to think of for this is swiping at the ground rather than reaching and pulling or pushing behind you. Our ground contact time is going to be a lot shorter with max velocity, and our foot should be landing underneath our hip instead of in front of or behind us. Distance for max velocity reps tends to be around 10 to 30 yards. Although this is excluding the distance we need to accelerate and transition into max velocity. So the actual distance of the rep may be a lot longer, but the time we spent in max velocity will be around 10 to 30. It's recommended to cap the total distance for max velocity sessions around 50 to 150 yards. Again, excluding the distance needed to accelerate and transition into max velocity. For rest in between max velocity sprints, we can use the 1 minute per 10 yards rule from earlier, or we can do 1 to 2 minutes per every second of max velocity sprinting. I generally would cap this around 10 minutes of rest in between sprints, if not a lot sooner, simply because it would take a lot of time out of your session. One last type of sprinting drill when it comes to speed training is assisted sprinting. This is where you have something pulling you forward, assisting you in running faster. However, this also requires a little bit more care when programming, as it has a bit more risk of injury if done inadequately. Reps for assisted sprint drills are usually around 10 to 30 yards, with a total distance each session of 10 to 100 yards. Again, this is all excluding the startup distance, just like our max velocity drills. Before we go, I keep saying this with each video, but this is not the only way that you can train for speed. There is a lot of different drills, programming methods, and coaching cues that you can use to help you get faster. It's going to depend on what you need individually. So if you see a coach out there with a new drill and it doesn't fit into this framework, that is fine. That doesn't mean that they're wrong or I'm wrong. So be kind to coaches, be kind to yourself, and find what works. Thanks for watching. Your viewership is very much appreciated. If you'd like to show some more support, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you want to join the Iron Strong Army. Leave a comment down below for what future videos you want to see, what topics you want me to cover, or if you just want to join with the community. Don't forget to fill out the coaching application in my bio if you need more guidance and you want a helping hand towards achieving your goals. As always, I'm Coach Cayden, and remember to forge your destiny.